Today, we're turning the clock back 100 years to the Roaring Twenties, a time of jazz, speakeasies, and radical change. Imagine a world just awakening from war, bursting with energy, style, and invention. From flapper fashion to Model Ts, let's rediscover what made the 1920s roar. Ready to step back in time? The Shadow of Prohibition. The 1920s may be remembered for jazz, flappers, and wild invention, but they began with a shadow hanging over the entire nation. On January 17, 1920, the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution went into full effect. Just like that, it became illegal to manufacture, sell, or transport intoxicating alcoholic beverages across the United States. It was the beginning of a nationwide experiment, one that would last 13 turbulent years. The law was known as Prohibition, and it came with big promises: a more moral, disciplined, and sober America. But if the folks behind it thought they could bottle up the American spirit, they had another thing coming. Because while the law tried to dry up the country, the thirst for celebration, for freedom, only grew stronger. And that's how an entire underground culture began to bloom in the shadows. A hidden world came alive behind locked doors, dim lights, and whispered passwords. Welcome to the age of the speakeasy. Now, if you've never heard of a speakeasy, picture this: a bar disguised as a bookstore, a jazz club tucked beneath a bakery, a swinging night spot behind an unmarked alley door. These were the secret sanctuaries of the roaring crowd, places where music flowed just as freely as the forbidden booze. And yes, the name speakeasy came from the habit of patrons being told to speak easy, to whisper, when ordering drinks, so as not to attract attention. Inside these hidden gems, the atmosphere was electric. Saxophones wailed, pianos pounded out syncopated rhythms, and the dance floor was always alive with movement. Young men in suspenders and women in sequined dresses threw caution to the wind as they danced the night away doing the Charleston or the Lindy Hop. For a few hours, these places made people forget the rules, the restrictions, and the reality outside. They weren't just bars, they were escapes. And while speakeasies operated illegally, they were often the most welcoming and vibrant places in town. People from all walks of life, rich and poor, black and white, immigrant and native-born, came together to enjoy the thrill of rebellion, the joy of music, and the simple pleasure of a drink with friends. Enforcement, frankly, was a joke. For every saloon that got shut down, 2 more popped up. Bribes flowed just as easily as bootlegged whiskey. In truth, Prohibition didn't stop people from drinking. It just changed where and how they did it. In many ways, speakeasies became symbols of the American spirit, resilient, creative, and unwilling to be told how to live. Prohibition may have tried to silence a nation, but instead, it gave birth to one of the most thrilling and rebellious eras of underground culture in American history. The car revolution and how it changed America forever. If there was one invention that truly transformed everyday life for Americans in the 1920s, it wasn't the radio or even the movies. It was the automobile. By the middle of the decade, thanks to breakthroughs in manufacturing, especially Henry Ford's legendary assembly line, cars were no longer just a luxury for the rich. The Model T became the first automobile affordable enough for the average American family. And once people got a taste of that freedom, there was no going back. Imagine it. For the first time, a working-class family could pack into their own car, head out for a Sunday drive, and explore beyond the limits of their town. What used to take half a day by horse-drawn carriage could now be done in an hour. Visiting relatives, going to the beach, driving to a local diner, it all became part of the American weekend. Suddenly, distance didn't feel so distant anymore. But cars didn't just change how we traveled. They changed everything around us. As more people got behind the wheel, America's entire landscape began to reshape itself. Roads that were once dusty and rugged began to be paved with smooth asphalt. Bridges stretched over rivers where ferries once carried people. Tunnels bored through hills that had long been natural barriers. Gas stations popped up everywhere, each one a tiny beacon for thirsty engines and tired travelers. By the late 20s, it wasn't unusual to see glowing neon signs for fuel, motor oil, and roadside snacks even in towns you'd never heard of. This was more than infrastructure. It was a new rhythm of life. The car became a symbol of independence. You weren't limited by train schedules or trolley routes. With your own set of wheels, the open road was yours to conquer. But the transformation wasn't always smooth. In rural areas, the road to modernization was slow, literally. Many country roads remained unpaved for years, even decades. Drivers often found themselves bouncing through rutted dirt paths, fighting mud in spring and dust in summer. And yet, they kept driving. Neighbors helped pull each other out of ditches. Farmers learned to fix flat tires as skillfully as they plowed fields. The American spirit of persistence kicked into high gear. If you got stuck, someone always stopped to help. Meanwhile, cities were facing their own automotive challenges. Streets once filled with pedestrians, streetcars, and bicycles were now clogged with noisy engines and impatient drivers. Traffic jams became a regular headache. Accidents were on the rise. Policymakers and engineers began asking tough questions. How do we control this metal stampede? What rules should exist? The concepts of traffic lanes, stop signs, speed limits, and crosswalks, things we take for granted today, were all born from this chaotic transition. Still, through all the growing pains, one thing was clear. The automobile was here to stay. It didn't just change how we got around, it redefined how we saw the world. Small towns started building motels to welcome travelers. Cities expanded outward, giving rise to the suburbs. Road trips became a new American tradition. And, perhaps most importantly, people began to dream differently. Because now, the road didn't just lead home, it led to possibility. The media explosion, when America started listening, watching, and dreaming together. The 1920s weren't just roaring because of jazz clubs and speeding automobiles. No, something else was crackling to life. Something that would forever change how Americans connected, were entertained, and understood the world around them. This was the decade when radio took over the home. Between 1923 and 1930, radio ownership in the U.S. skyrocketed. By the end of the decade, 6 out of every 10 American households owned one of these fascinating new machines. It may sound quaint now, but back then, it was revolutionary. Just imagine it. A chilly evening in 1925, the whole family gathered in the parlor, eyes fixed on a large wooden box with glowing dials. That little device, no bigger than a suitcase, was their connection to the world. It brought breaking news, live music, baseball games, and even dramas acted out by unseen voices straight into their living room. For the first time in history, people from every corner of the country, whether in a New York apartment or a Kansas farmhouse, could share the exact same moment, the exact same emotion, at the exact same time. Radio became a communal heartbeat, pulsing through homes coast to coast. And yet, radio was only the beginning. If radio let you hear the world, movies let you escape into it. The 1920s were also the first true golden age of cinema. Picture this: grand movie palaces rising up in the hearts of cities, draped in velvet curtains and glowing chandeliers. By the mid-1920s, an astonishing 50 million Americans were going to the movies each week, a staggering number when you consider the total U.S. population at the time. Back then, films were silent. Audiences watched the story unfold on screen while a live pianist or small orchestra played along. Emotions were communicated through expressive faces and flickering black and white images, with intertitles filling in bits of dialogue. People didn't just watch movies, they felt them. And then came 1927, a year that changed everything. That was the year the jazz singer hit theaters and introduced most Americans to something brand new, talking pictures. The moment audiences heard Al Jolson's voice crackle through the speakers, "You ain't heard nothin' yet," they were hooked. Overnight, the silent film era began to fade, and talkies became the new standard. Movie attendance exploded. By the end of the decade, theaters weren't just a place to see a story. They were a place to be swept away. The stories were bigger, the laughter louder, the tears more real. And at the center of this entertainment revolution, the birth of Hollywood royalty. Movie stars became household names: Rudolph Valentino, Clara Bow, Douglas Fairbanks, Greta Garbo. Their faces lit up the silver screen, their fashion choices made headlines, and their off-screen romances sparked national obsession. For millions of Americans, these stars weren't just actors, they were icons. They defined beauty, charisma, and the glamorous new American dream. Together, radio and film created something America had never seen before: a truly national pop culture. People weren't just entertained, they were united by stories, songs, and spectacles. A man in Alabama could laugh at the same joke as a woman in Oregon. A kid in Detroit could mimic the same dance move he saw in the movies that weekend. This cultural explosion was more than just fun. It gave people a sense of belonging, of shared experience. In an age of rapid change, mass media became an anchor. Something familiar, something thrilling, something that reminded Americans that even as their world was changing, they were still in it together. Have you ever heard stories from your grandparents about life in the Roaring Twenties? Travel takes flight. How the 1920s changed the way we saw the world. As life in the 1920s became faster, louder, and more daring, so too did the way people got from place to place. This was a decade of movement, not just in how far people traveled, but how they experienced the world beyond their doorstep. And one of the boldest new frontiers? Air travel. In the early 1920s, commercial aviation was still in its infancy. Flying wasn't something most people considered safe, or even sane. Planes were small, loud, and drafty. Cabin pressurization? Not yet invented. In fact, if you were brave enough to board one of those early airliners, you'd find yourself seated in a tight metal tube with maybe 20 seats, surrounded by engine noise and chilled air, all while the plane bounced and swayed through unpredictable skies. But for the handful who dared, there was a thrill in the risk. You could now soar across the countryside in mere hours instead of days. Cities that once felt distant were suddenly within reach. Yes, it was uncomfortable. And yes, it was expensive. But flying offered something priceless: a glimpse into the future. Now, if you wanted something more comfortable, even a little romantic, you might have turned to the skies in another way. Airships. Though they wouldn't truly rise in popularity until the 1930s, some luxury travelers in the 20s were already stepping aboard these floating giants. Inside, they found plush lounges, dining areas, and panoramic windows. Airships moved slowly, but they offered a serenity that planes couldn't match. It was travel for those who preferred grace over speed. Still, for the average American in the 1920s, the gold standard of travel wasn't in the air. It was still on the ground. This was the golden age of the railroad. Railroads had long connected the country, but by the 1920s, they were more than just functional. They were luxurious. Picture this: you're boarding a sleek silver train at a downtown station. A porter tips his cap as you step into a private sleeper car, complete with crisp linens and polished wood paneling. Later, you'll dine on roast chicken and fresh rolls in a linen-draped dining car, surrounded by chandeliers and the rhythmic hum of the rails. The observation lounge offers leather armchairs and passing scenery through wide glass windows. It wasn't just travel, it was an experience. Whether you were crossing the Great Plains or gliding past mountain ranges, train travel in the 20s was a celebration of comfort and class, the perfect way to see America in style. And for those staying closer to home, city transportation was evolving too. Urban areas were rapidly expanding their subway systems and elevated trains, making it easier than ever to get across town without a car. The systems were growing faster, cleaner, and more reliable. You could hop on in the morning and be downtown in minutes. No horse, no carriage, no traffic jams. For millions of city dwellers, this convenience brought a new sense of freedom, independence, and rhythm to their daily lives. Looking back, the 1920s were more than a time of wild nights and jazz tunes. They were also the beginning of a world more connected than ever before. Whether you were flying over clouds, gliding over steel rails, or riding beneath the city streets, one thing was clear: people were hungry to explore. They didn't just want to live, they wanted to go places. Cities rise, retail transforms, and a new American lifestyle is born. The 1920s didn't just transform how Americans moved or how they were entertained. It reshaped where they lived and how they lived. One of the biggest demographic shifts of the decade was the steady migration from rural farms to bustling cities. For generations, America had been a country of small towns and open fields. But now, the roar of opportunity called from the skyscraper canyons of New York, Chicago, Detroit, and beyond. Young people packed up, left the countryside behind, and went in search of something more: a job, a thrill, a fresh start. And cities, in turn, transformed to welcome them. Construction boomed. Skylines changed almost overnight. Steel and concrete towers rose where two-story buildings once stood. Architects reached for the clouds, and cities began to take on the iconic shapes we still recognize today. The urban landscape wasn't just expanding outward, it was growing upward. As more people poured into cities, retail culture began to evolve right alongside them. The small-town general store, once the heart of every community, now faced serious competition. Chain stores, like Woolworths, began popping up on every corner. These businesses offered wider selections and lower prices, made possible by the power of mass production and nationwide distribution. It was the beginning of big retail, and shoppers started to expect more, from both prices and presentation. And then came the department store. In major cities, names like Macy's, Marshall Field's, and Wanamaker's became more than just places to shop. They were palaces of commerce. You could step inside and find polished marble floors, sparkling chandeliers, seasonal window displays, and entire floors dedicated to fashion, household goods, toys, cosmetics, anything you could imagine. But shopping wasn't just about buying things anymore. It was an experience. For the growing middle class, strolling through a department store became a way to pass time, socialize, and take in the glamour of modern life. Going to Macy's was almost like attending the theater. People dressed up for it. Kids dreamed of it. It was, in many ways, the new downtown cathedral, a temple to convenience and aspiration. Yet the city didn't just change where people lived or what they bought. It transformed how they spent their free time. Americans in the 1920s had more leisure time than ever before. The workday was shortening, wages were slowly rising, and weekends were becoming something to enjoy, not just recover from. And with affordable cars now in the hands of the middle class, there was one place that became the ultimate weekend getaway: the beach. Before the automobile, beach vacations were mostly reserved for the wealthy. But now, families could pile into their Ford and head for the coast. Suddenly, beaches weren't elite. They were American. And they weren't just a place to cool off. They were a cultural shift. Swimsuits got shorter, lighter, more practical. A tan, once seen as a mark of working-class labor, became trendy, even glamorous. Bronze skin and seaside fun were now signs that you had arrived, not just at the shore, but into modern life. Picnics in the sand, boardwalks buzzing with games and music, and kids chasing waves. It was a far cry from the rigid Victorian values of just a generation earlier. Altogether, these shifts in urban living, consumer habits, and recreation painted a vivid picture of an America on the move, an America redefining itself. The old ways weren't necessarily forgotten, but they were being reshaped, modernized, reimagined for a world that seemed to promise something new around every corner. Which invention or social change from the 1920s do you think had the biggest impact on modern life? Wrapping up the Roaring Twenties. And there you have it, a whirlwind tour through one of the most extraordinary decades in American history, the Roaring Twenties. We've seen a nation in full bloom, bursting with energy and innovation, from rebellious speakeasies defying prohibition to a revolution on wheels reshaping roads and cities, from radios crackling with the latest music to silver screens filled with glamorous stars. We've traveled in luxury rail cars, wandered into department stores that dazzled the eye, and felt the sand between our toes as the beach became a playground for everyone, not just the rich. It was a time when everything felt possible. The future was bright, fast, and full of promise. But just as the decade drew to a close, in 1929, something changed. The music faded, the laughter quieted, and the next chapter of American life would look very, very different. Next up, we'll dive into the sobering reality of the 1930s, a time marked by hardship, resilience, and transformation. How did Americans cope? How did they survive, and even thrive, in the face of the Great Depression? Stick with us. The journey through history is just getting started. American life in the 1930s. Now, we turn the page to a harder chapter, the 1930s, a time of dust, despair, and quiet strength. Let's take a closer look at life in America during the Great Depression. 1933, Plymouth and Bathing Beauty. Girl on the bumper of a 1931 Chevrolet. Washington, D.C., 1934. New York Stock Exchange, 1929. (1930) Police cruiser and 2 motorcycle cops. (1931) Ford at Paul's Place gas station. Carpenter Drive-In, Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles. Wells Beach, Maine, 1938. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Seattle, Washington. Zier Diner, South Los Angeles, 1931. Kramer's Wigwam Gas Station, Browning, Montana, 1935. Food Line in New York City, 1931. (1937) DeSoto parked next to a Model T. Michigan, 1940. Coke delivery trucks. Lexington, Kentucky, 1935. New York City docks, 1935. Manhattan skyline from Brooklyn, 1936. Dallas, South Dakota, 1936. Blackwood Service Station, California. Leaving South Dakota, 1936. Westinghouse Trade Show, Lexington, Kentucky, 1933. U.S. Highway 99, California. Publicity shot for the Frank Dillon Tire Company. Hamilton County, Tennessee, 1937. An early drive-in theater. New York City, 1936. Tanker Service Station, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tenement house in Brockton, Massachusetts. Kingston, New York, 1934. Relief line in New York City, 1930. Ed Couch, Texas, 1939. Central Park, New York City, 1933. Marcus Motors, Denver, Colorado, 1938. Manhattan, 1932. Modeling seat covers for 1933. Florida, 1937. Delivery of the new 1936 Buicks. Chandler, Arizona, 1940. Kids on the running board of a 1936 Pontiac. Cincinnati, 1936. Glendale, California, 1936. Winter Haven, Florida, 1937. California Service Station, 1934. Person County, North Carolina, 1937. '34 Ford picked up by manual crank tow truck. Supper in Dugout Home, New Mexico, 1940. Simon's Drive-In, Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles. Roadside Camp in Kern County, California, 1938. '36, Jensen with Ford V8. Hamilton County, Ohio, 1935. Post Office, Glen Ellen, Illinois. Elm Grove, Oklahoma, 1936. Modeling in front of a 1930s Willys. Smithland, Iowa, 1937. The Corner Service Station. Moving Day in North Florida, 1936. Around the Campfire at Huntington Beach, California. Kern County, California, 1938. J.J. Hickey, Gas Station, Ann Arbor, Michigan, 1938. Nipomo, California, 1936. Orpheum Theater, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 1933. Auto Camp in California, 1936. Cool Motor Gas Station, Cleveland, Ohio, 1939. Malheur County, Oregon, 1939. '38, Oldsmobile at San Francisco Bay Bridge. Smithfield, North Carolina, 1936. Gulf Service Station, 1931. Oklahoma, 1942. Yakima Valley, Washington, 1936. Workers' Camp, Sunday School, California, 1937. Pulaski County, Arkansas, 1935. Tupelo, Mississippi, 1935. California, 1939. Hightown, New Mexico, 1940. Workers' camp near Holtville, California, 1937. America then and now in 100 fascinating photos. America has changed in ways both big and small over the decades. From bustling city streets to quiet small towns, these 100 fascinating photos reveal how the past compares to the present. Get ready for a journey through time. Firth, Idaho, 1950s. Firth, Idaho, 2025. A busy service station in 1939. This old garage in San Agustin, 2025. West Broadway, Hollis, Oklahoma, 1940s. West Broadway, Hollis, Oklahoma, 2025. Houston, Texas. Houston was once mainly known as a transportation center for cotton. Over the years, the city has diversified. Leavenworth, Washington, 1930s. Leavenworth, Washington. Memphis, Tennessee, 1940. Memphis grew in the 19th century with its cotton industry. An aerial view of Memphis, Tennessee. Osage, West Virginia, 1938. Osage, West Virginia. Hennepin Avenue, Minneapolis, 1956. Hennepin Avenue, Minneapolis, 2025. Las Vegas Boulevard, 1947. Las Vegas Boulevard, 2025. The Homowack Lodge Pool in the Catskill Mountains, 1970. The Homowack Lodge Pool in the Catskill Mountains, 2025. Central City, Colorado, 1953. Central City, Colorado, 2025. A booming mining center in the 1940s. The quiet town of Welch, West Virginia was 2025. Blissfield, Michigan, 1957. Blissfield, Michigan, 2025. The Grand View Ship Hotel, Lincoln Highway, Pennsylvania. Now it's a highway. The Glenwood Hotel and Resort in the Poconos, 1950s. Abandoned swimming pool in 2025. Bisbee, Arizona, 1940. Bisbee, Arizona, 2025. A family rest stop with tourist cabins. This lot in Orderville, 2025. Los Angeles, California. In 1899, LA was relatively quiet. Now it's the movie capital of the world. South Dakota, 1942. Ipswich, South Dakota, 2025. Route 66, Winslow, Arizona, 1940s. Route 66, Winslow, Arizona, 2025. Adrian, Michigan, 1911. Adrian, Michigan, 2025. Ipswich, Glasgow, Montana, 1913. Glasgow, Montana, 2025. The Pines Resort, South Fallsburg, New York, 1950s. The Pines Resort, South Fallsburg, New York, 2025. Route 66, Grants, New Mexico, 1950s. Route 66, Grants, New Mexico, 2025. Lake Ozark, Missouri, 1936. Lake Ozark, Missouri, 2025. Crane, Texas, 1939. Crane, Texas, 2025. In 1871, Chicago, Illinois was devastated by a Great Fire. Now the city's metropolitan area has more than 10 million people. (1937), during a dust storm. Elkhart, Kansas, 2025. Sloppy Joe's Bar, Key West, 1938. Sloppy Joe's Bar, Key West, 2025. Lamoille, Iowa, 1939. Lamoille, Iowa, 2025. Milford, Indiana, 1910. Milford, Indiana, 2025. New York City, New York. The city has always looked stunning. Here's the Manhattan skyline in 1964. The city view shows Manhattan, New York, U.S. March 17, 2025. State Street, Madison, Wisconsin, 1940. State Street, Madison, Wisconsin, 2025. Austin, Texas, 1943. Austin once had wide roads that made it look little more than a glorified suburb. Austin in 2025. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1850. Philadelphia is one of America's oldest cities. It was the original U.S. capital city. Philadelphia in 2025. Phoenix, Arizona. The city once had wide-open, unpaved streets. Now it's much more city-like. Dallas, Texas. In 1945, Dallas was an industrial city. Now it's more technology-based. San Francisco, California. In 1906, an earthquake inflicted immense damage on San Francisco. San Francisco in 2025. San Jose, California, 1906. San Jose was only California's second incorporated city. San Jose in 2025. San Antonio, Texas, 1898. San Antonio was once a Spanish mission and colonial outpost. It's grown a lot since then. San Antonio, Texas, 2025. Jacksonville, Florida. In 1921, Jacksonville was a sprawling beach city. Jacksonville in 2025. Fort Worth, Texas, 1905. Fort Worth was established as, you guessed it, a fort. It's since become a full-blown city. Fort Worth, Texas, 2025. El Paso, Texas. 100 years ago, El Paso looked like a charming place for families. Between 1900 and 1910. El Paso today. San Diego, California, 1899. Adjacent to the Mexican border, San Diego is one of the older major cities in the U.S. It's known for its beautiful beaches and advanced technology industries. San Diego, California, 2025. Indianapolis, Indiana. The planners established it as the crossroads of the country, between 1900 and 1910. Indianapolis in 2025. Columbus, Ohio, 1867. The city was once so green it looked like farmland. Columbus, Ohio in 2025. Charlotte, North Carolina. The city grew because of its cotton mill industry. Charlotte in 2025. Seattle, Washington. Seattle is a relatively young city, settled by Europeans in the 1850s. Seattle in 2025. Detroit, Michigan. Even before the automobile industry was a thing, Detroit looked majestic. Detroit, Michigan, in 2025. Boston, Massachusetts, 1757. Boston was originally a part of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The Boston of today still has a gorgeous bay. Denver, Colorado, 1866. 150 years ago, Denver looked like a small village. Denver today. Nashville, Tennessee, 1862. Nashville was once a relatively quaint city. Nashville in 2025. Washington, D.C. Washington was founded in 1791 to serve as the country's capital. Washington, D.C., 2025. Fremont Street, Las Vegas, 1912. Fremont Street, Las Vegas, 1929. Fremont Street, Las Vegas, 1939. Fremont Street, Las Vegas, 1949. Fremont Street, Las Vegas, 1956. Fremont Street, Las Vegas, 1971. Fremont Street, Las Vegas today. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the past. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Who Remembers, so you don't miss our next historical adventure. We've got plenty more fascinating stories to uncover. See you in the next one.